is the fact that you have so many teachers who over a long period of time have gone obsolete. I mean, you can practically know that they are not in tune with what is happening in the 21st century. What do you do to keep them apart since they're still in the system?
Thank you. I'd like to start by saying that every nation that develops particularly focus on education. Nigeria is far behind when we talk in terms of financing education. And one of the very critical aspects of financing education, the focus should be on teacher training and retraining.
Training and retraining.
Yes. We shouldn't just talk about training and then abandon retraining, because you see there are many things that pop up on the job, and then there is need for adjustment. There's need for recalibration along the line. And so one of the biggest challenges we've seen in our time of work, particularly in the sector, is the challenge of what I would call analog teachers teaching digital students. You see, we have...
You see the gap.
Yes, yeah. So you see a teacher who doesn't even know what is called WhatsApp. And then he's having to, empower and impart knowledge to a student that is on every other social media platform you can imagine. And then, in the class they have a click, they're all on WhatsApp, they have a group chat, and then every teacher has a nickname. Every teacher, so they make jest of the teacher, even in the class, when their phones are not seized, they are communicating. You think you are imparting knowledge, but these children are just making jest of it because
you're not in tune with what's happening.
So it's a big challenge. Then you see, the world has moved, and every teacher in the 21st century needs to be tech savvy, needs to be on top. They need to understand what it means to educate, particularly using e-resources. There are several electronic libraries that are online that a teacher in the 21st century should get acquainted with, and then, should be able to, maximize and, take advantage of some of these resources that are free. Some of them are open resources, they are free to help, but unfortunately, several teachers are not able to use some of these free resources. Why? Because they lack training in some of these basic, and they...
Is the government not doing enough to train them? Is it that the tools are not available in their schools?
Okay, government, let's take Lagos State government as, for example, as a case study. If you follow the education trend, you know that they, like Mr. Johnson rightly said, teachers need to be tech savvy. Lagos State government have taken it upon themselves to ensure that through the Eco-Excel program, by ensuring that these teachers are trained on how to use technology for teaching and learning process. So, but government needs to do more, because we need to understand that education is expensive. I think we need to get that far. Like one of my lecturers used to say that if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. So if government want to get the best out of the system, they need to invest in the education sector.
If they don't invest in the education sector, what are the dangers for the children that we're raising?
Well, first, we'll have an education system that is not at par with what is ongoing in the community. For instance, you could have a situation where pupils and students are learning things that are not even related to real life happenings and occurrences.
Like we have.
Like what is currently going on, number one. And number two, if this infrastructure are not in place, then you have a capacity gap both on the side of the teachers who are supposed to impart knowledge and also a deficiency of the pupils and students who are supposed to be the impactee of this knowledge. So that's number two. Then number three, because education is expected to prepare the children for the larger society, after school. When you talk in terms of this in school, particularly in the universities, you talk about bridging the gap between the town and the gown. The gown are the professors and all the people who impart this knowledge. Then the town are the people who actually are supposed to make use of the knowledge that is being imparted in the within the four walls of the university system. So, because education is a continuous process. So, if these things are not in place, then you have a larger gap. Many people who are in town, they seem to be learning more, they can do more, and that is one of the problems why we have seen is that you have graduates who have zero skill in zero job skills. They know all the paperwork, they know all the theoretical aspects, but when it comes to practical, zero. So somebody can come out today as a first-class graduate of say civil engineering who had never been on site to supervise, to get to know how these things are really done. Well, we thank God that I think some things are
going to do IT, go and do it in the media.
Definitely, yes. That's one of the challenges we have. And then, in those days, when polytechnics in square holes, the polytechnics were really equipped by the government. There were all of this infrastructure, all of this equipment, all of these gadgets that were there. In those days, he talked about funding of education. But today, go there. Some of those that were not looted or stolen have not come up. They are dead. They are no longer working. And I remember my own secondary school, the technical workshop was so equipped that there was all kinds of machineries that were used in sawmills and all of that. Go there to the same school today, it's a ghost, a shadow of itself of what it used to be. My own primary school in the village, we call it a school without failure, because there were different sessions in that school. You could be a cobbler, you could work with the metal work, you could work with the newsroom and all of that. So we were being trained, but today what happens?
Done.
All of those things.
Now let's look at the tools that in quick succession the government must put up to fix this. You have just 1 minute, but what are the tools that the government must put in place to fix this problem?
Thank you. I'll talk about internet facilities. Starting from there, I think it's a good point to start from. Number two, maybe before we even talk about that, let's talk about even making the educational environment friendly and at least conducive enough for learning. Before we begin to talk of IT equipment and all of that, pupils and students should not be learning under the tree. We have seen schools where pupils stay under the tree to learn.
Sit on the floor.
Some sit on the floor, and there was even a video that went viral fairly recently, where pupils were writing exams in a classroom, and it was half of the roof was blown open. There was rain falling directly into the classroom. There was flood on the floor. Students were writing exams in that. And you can imagine that I've been to a school before, somewhere, let me not mention that place, where we met the pupils in a hot afternoon. The principal of that school needed to locate them because there could have been an outbreak. It was so hot. The heat that was oozing out of that classroom was enough to roast a plantain. So the school principal needed to use her initiative and say, look, please, let's move these children out of this place. Otherwise,
so in summary, what's your organization?
Okay.
What are you people doing to?
Thank you. First, we do two things. First, we do governance. Governance is
quickly in 30 seconds.
Yes, when we strengthen the institutions of government that have been put in charge of ensuring that these things are in place, and we ensure that the monies devoted to this by government are not misused. That's number one. Number two, we also do service delivery, which is where we ourselves step in to do personal and direct intervention. So these two come together to help to build society, particularly.
Thank you so much, Tayo and Johnson, for joining me on the Bumper Breakfast again today. We look forward to having you. I've been looking forward to having you for a while. We look forward to having you once again. Yinkakenny, how do we close?
Well, anyway, Nigeria, we have hope for the country. Just try and be the change you want to see in the country. I'm Yinkakenny, I see you tomorrow.
My name is Tomisin. Just see you again tomorrow morning, hopefully with a better voice.